The Roman Catholic Church is one of Peru's most influential institutions, and the Sodalitium of Christian life is one of its most powerful religious sects. But the order has long been mired in controversies, from the fascist sympathies of its founders to more recent claims of sexual abuse. Now, it faces allegations about disturbing links to a violent criminal gang. Reporter Daniel Yovera has been to investigate.
In Peru, one institution has a greater place in the nation's heart than any other: the Catholic Church. It provides a central pillar to communities rich and poor in a nation where 9 out of 10 people consider themselves devout Catholics. But last year, this most hallowed of institutions was caught up in a scandal of the worst kind.
Enfrentan acusaciones no solo de abuso psicológico y físico, sino incluso de abuso sexual.
The leaders of the Sodalitium of Christian life, a secretive sect within the Peruvian Catholic Church, were accused by 30 former followers of physically, emotionally, and even sexually abusing them, some while they were still children. When it was set up in 1971, the Sodalitium openly sympathized with fascism and only recruited children and young men from Peru's European-descended middle and upper classes. And now, this controversial sect is accused of using criminal gangs to kick ordinary people off their land in a bid to build a billion-dollar property empire. One of Peru's top investigative reporters, Daniel Yovera, has been digging into these allegations for several months.
El Sodalicio reclutó desde sus inicios jóvenes de familias ricas e influyentes de este país. Los formó bajo estrictas medidas de disciplina y obediencia. También construyó vínculos en el sector político y empresarial. Con el tiempo, todo esto le permitió al Sodalicio construir su propio imperio económico.
We're traveling north to Peru's third largest city, Piura, where this alleged land grab took place. January 2014, a police operation is underway on the outskirts of Piura town. After a gun battle, the Peruvian police detain the leadership of an infamous local gang known as the Gran Cruz del Norte, or Great Cross of the North, including their top boss, Dennis Cruz. Pedro Zapata was a brigadier in the Piura police force at the time, and it was his investigation that finally brought down the gang. Linked to at least 30 murders, the Great Cross of the North had been terrorizing the region for years. Then, one night in 2012, they kidnapped Brigadier Zapata's son Fidel, a local motorbike taxi driver, along with his passenger, a suspected police informant.
Estaban atados, vendados, amordazados y los han traído a esta zona.
The gang brutally tortured both men in this shrubland 5 miles outside of Piura town. Then they killed them.
Después, ya que le hemos dado, como te decía, cristiana sepultura, venimos a investigar y ahí descubrimos de que cuando caían no les pasaba nada.
La banda.
Y a esta banda criminal que me llegó a descubrir que detrás de esta mafia criminal estaban los sodalicios. Ellos financiaban a la organización criminal, logramos obtener depósitos bancarios que era de la San Juan Bautista, que le pertenece a los sacerdotes sodalicios, les entregaban esas importantes sumas de dinero a los de la Gran Cruz, con la finalidad de que los de la Gran Cruz, con la violencia, con las armas, se apoderen de terrenos de personas.
The San Juan Bautista, or St. John the Baptist Civil Association, is a national humanitarian organization which says it's dedicated to education and the spreading of religion within the community. At the time of these alleged events, Alberto Gómez de la Torre Pretel was in charge.
Gómez de la Torre Pretel, el representante legal de los sodalicios, era el que les entregaba las cantidades de dinero a los de la Gran Cruz. Es por ello que vinieron policías, fiscales y jueces de Lima a desbaratar esta organización criminal con hermetismo.
This special organized crime unit from Lima interviewed Gómez de la Torre. We obtained transcripts of that interview. The manager of the San Juan Bautista Humanitarian Association admits paying the gang's representatives, known rapists and murderers, regularly for security until their arrest in 2014. He admits making cash payments and cashier's checks out to the gang's nominated representatives.
Los integrantes de la banda fueron intervenidos y al efectuárseles el registro personal respectivo, a uno de ellos se le encuentra unos vouchers. Habían retirado 70.000 soles, recuerdo, 70.000 nuevos soles, y hablaba pues de la San Juan Bautista.
Gómez de la Torre then made weekly payments amounting to over $500,000 to a company set up by the gang's leaders. He says he made these payments so that the gang would protect, not invade, land for San Juan Bautista. But a further incident from 2012 suggests he wasn't just providing the Great Cross of the North with money, he was getting pretty hands-on too.
Recibo una llamada del mayor comisario de Tacalá. Preocupadamente me dice: Pedro, he intervenido a Gómez de la Torre Pretel de la Asociación Civil San Juan Bautista. Él los interviene cuando se van a apoderar ilícitamente de un terreno ajeno.
The police were indeed called to a farm that night, where a group of 30 armed men had been intimidating the workers. When they got there, shots were fired. The police arrested 2 men who appeared to be the ringleaders. One of those taken into custody was none other than the man in charge of San Juan Bautista, Gómez de la Torre Pretel. But he didn't stay in jail for long.
Los lleva a la comisaría y enseguida la policía recibe una llamada telefónica de un alto miembro del clero.
¿Y fueron liberadas estas personas entonces?
Fueron liberadas.
Despite the troubling account found in the police report, no further action was taken against Gómez de la Torre Pretel.
La iglesia es poderosa. Tiene un poder sobre todas las esferas del poder político, sobre el poder policial más, sobre el poder del Ministerio Público y sobre el poder judicial, que no solamente tenía a policías corruptos, fiscales corruptos, jueces corruptos, sino que tenía el poder de la Iglesia Católica a través de los sodalicios.
Today, the land invaded by the gang is home to a huge real estate development, Miraflores Country Club. Under construction is a city within a city, which aims to one day house over 10,000 people from middle and upper income brackets. We decide to go and take a look at the project for ourselves while secretly filming.
Tendremos torres financieras, centro empresarial, centro comercial, clubhouse, zona de educación, clínica, estación de bomberos, comisaría, municipalidad, cine, teatro, iglesia, etc.
Over 2,000 homes have already been built within the country club, and we're told another 2,000 will go up within a few years. But it's not just the homes and leisure facilities that are impressive.
Todo este proyecto ya va dirigido para un sector B+, o super B. Pero siempre es bueno resaltar para saber, para que los clientes sepan, por ejemplo, dónde con quién van a rozarse los hijos más adelante.
¿Quién está haciendo eso?
Los sodalicios.
¿Quiénes son los sodalicios?
Los sodalicios son los juristas.
Ah, okay. We ask what was on this land before the Miraflores Country Club.
Y esto era tierra. Era tierra, árboles, lagartijas, todo lo que era. Por ejemplo, este es un lote de 122. Sale por un precio de $32,462. Ese es su precio.
If every plot of land within the development is purchased, sales are set to soar over $1 billion. And any profits from those sales will go to the shareholders of its operating company, Inmobiliaria Miraflores, Peru. We looked this company up in Peru's public registry and discovered that 99% of its shares are owned by the Sodalitium San Juan Bautista Civil Association. That's the same Sodalitium company accused of paying the Great Cross gang to kick local communities off their land in order to make way for this very development. One of the plots of land today owned by the Miraflores Country Club was for many years home to Carmen Campodónico.
¿Cómo le va?
Adelante.
Gracias. Esta es su casita, entonces ahora vive acá.
Sí, ese es el cuartón que...
Una habitación.
Una habitación que yo misma he hecho con los materiales que he tenido por ahí.
She used to live in a farmhouse with her 5 sons and 1 daughter, until armed men ejected her family at gunpoint in 2012. Now, Carmen is reduced to renting this tiny, dilapidated home in one of Piura town's poorest streets, making do however she can with the most basic of facilities.
Veo bajar una turba de gente, como de unas 80 o 100 personas, y bajaban con pistolas, con machetes, con palos, y se enfrentaron contra mis hijos. Terrible, ¿no? Porque nunca me había pasado que me apunten con un revólver o me pongan el machete en el cuello, ¿no? Es algo terrible, ¿no? Mi hija, asustadísima, llorando, casi gritando, y mis hijos peleando, también con el revólver en la cabeza. Entonces yo agarrado y corrido, yo le he dicho, dejen ahí, vámonos. Hemos corrido como hemos podido.
Now the Great Cross gang are all in jail awaiting trial, Carmen feels safe to return to her land once more. We're accompanied by local community leader Maria Eugenia, who lives nearby and also claims to have witnessed the invasions by the Great Cross.
Bajo ese relleno está el cerco de la posesión de las personas, están las chocitas de las personas. ¿Quién se iba contra la empresa? ¿Quién se iba contra cientos de personas armadas?
Sí,
Ni
claro.
loco para meterse, pues señor, un paso atrás.
Ahí donde han hecho ese edificio que lo ves a la hora que pasas tú por ahí por la inmobiliaria,
Sí.
ahí habían 2 viejitos que eran dueños. A ellos también les quitaron y los mataron, pues, los de construcción.
Other local community members confirmed that an elderly couple were indeed found beaten to death in their house on that very spot. Carmen is convinced that when she and her family were kicked off their land, the Sodalitium were responsible.
A mí sí me consta que ha sido los sodalicios. ¿Por qué? Porque yo he visto al cura ahí, en mi terreno.
¿Antes de la invasión, después de la invasión?
No, antes de la invasión. ¿Por qué? Porque estaba con su sotana, blanco, y su sombrero. ¿Va? Inclusive estaba Carlos Gómez de la Torre Pretel también como si fuera de la asociación. Después, como vieron que yo no quería vender, no quería salir, me sacaron a la fuerza.
In these arid plains, perched on the edge of a desert, fertile land has always been at a premium, and brute force often the easier solution for those looking to expand the base of their power and wealth. It's a story Pedro Gavenius knows all too well. He is the president of the Castilla Campesino community, a group of farmers who claim to have spent generations living and working some of the land on which the Miraflores Country Club now stands. Today, Pedro is leading his community as they march to the residence of the highest-ranking clergyman in the Sodalitium, the Archbishop of Piura, Monseñor José Antonio Eguren.
Nosotros somos herederos de la cultura tayán. Si nuestros antepasados lucharon contra los españoles, contra los incas, ahora contra los terratenientes, ahora estamos luchando con un grupo más poderoso, pero más corrupto. Castilla está ubicado acá y el área afectada es esta. Ahora, nosotros somos legítimos propietarios y posesionarios de esta área. Esto está respaldado por títulos coloniales adquiridos el 20 de julio del año 1645.
But although these rights are documented by records stretching back centuries, the regional government has gone ahead and sold the community's land and is asking the courts to cancel their historical rights.
Ellos sabían que eso era de la comunidad campesina de Castilla, pero con intereses personales, intereses económicos que seguramente han entrado a tallar, Han cambiado y se han olvidado de lo que tenemos nosotros aquí documentado.
Pedro says that after invading the community's land, the gang posed as the original inhabitants and then sold the land to the Miraflores Country Club.
Ellos se autodenominaron propietarios y posesionarios con actas falsas, con inspecciones falsas, con documentos falsos. Y con esos documentos el gobierno regional les ha aceptado y han sido automáticos en favorecer a los delincuentes que contrataron los sodalicios para invadir las tierras de la comunidad.
The community have brought a letter outlining their concerns and attempt to hand it through the front door to a representative of the Archbishop.
Y hasta ahorita no tenemos respuesta. ¿Qué hacemos, hermanos comuneros?
But less than 2 minutes later, the letter is returned.
Pero nos devuelven la documentación tal conforme está. No quieren recepcionar.
Nosotros tenemos la convicción que hay una parcialización de la Fiscalía y los juzgados a favor de la inmobiliaria Miraflores, la Asociación Civil San Juan Bautista, por el enorme poder que tienen los sodalicios.
Both Carmen and Pedro say it's this far-reaching power of the Sodalitium that made the Great Cross of the North untouchable for such a long time. And it's that same power that Samuel Alberca claims he came face-to-face with one night in 2011. He's the original leader of the gang that would one day become the Great Cross of the North. While serving a 10-year sentence for armed robbery, Samuel met Dennis Cruz. Soon after leaving prison, they set up a company together called the Civil Construction Union. But Samuel says it all went wrong in 2011 when he was summoned to a meeting at a Catholic chapel in Piura town.
Voy a lo que es el Santísimo en compañía de Dennis Cruz. Allí se encontraba el monseñor de Piura y había otro señor, Gómez de la Torre, que también estaba acá como gerente.
Yeah.
De pronto nos comenzaron a, decirnos cómo era Miraflores Country Club. Me dijeron, nosotros queremos avanzar hacia atrás, le hemos comprado algunos, pero para atrás los posicionarios no nos quieren vender. Entonces la idea de nosotros es invadir las tierras, pero apropiarnos a través de falsas ventas. O sea, si tú formas un grupo, nosotros sacamos documentación que ellos tienen tiempos en el terreno.
The former union leader admits he was tempted by their offer.
Aquí me ofrecían $3 millones. Me seducía semejante cantidad de dinero. Por un pronto una oreja me decía voy a ser millonario. Y por la otra pensaba de que había gente que no se merecía eso, que tenían años en las tierras. Pues. Lo miré y le dije, ¿sabes qué? Mete tu plata al culo.
¿A quién se lo dijiste?
Sí, al monseñor.
But for Dennis Cruz, it appears this opportunity was just too good to miss.
Y Denis atrás mío me decía, oye, que tú eres cojudo, ¿no? ¿No te das cuenta que vamos a ser millonarios?
Dennis Cruz te dijo eso.
Sí. No, le dije, hermano, olvídate, hermano. Entonces me ven a mí como un peligro. Me ven como un peligro y ¿qué hacen? No, hay que matarlo.
Left with few options, Samuel began collaborating with Brigadier Zapata and the Organized Crime Unit.
Después, cuando ya comienzo a indagar por qué estaba metido el cura, me comienzo a indagar que él era el fundador de la Asociación Civil San Juan Bautista y que él era prácticamente la ejecutora de esta obra de Miraflores Country Club.
Monsignor Eguren was indeed the founding president of the San Juan Bautista Civil Association, although he renounced his official role within the organization a number of years ago. We spoke to several former employees from the Sodalitium's key businesses. One was willing to shed further light on the role played by the Archbishop of Piura. He spoke on condition we protect his identity.
As soon as José Antonio Eguren was named Archbishop of Piura, a group of Sodalites went and opened a house there. Their aim was to go around trying to convert and gain new followers, so they went to work in different schools. Immediately after opening several of these houses, they started looking at what businesses they could do there, and the idea of the real estate company started to come into being.
And according to Samuel, the Archbishop also fulfilled another important role, using the huge influence of the church to protect the Sodalitium companies from run-ins with the law.
no está comprendida en esta investigación la Asociación San Juan Bautista?
Era prácticamente que ellos se iban a la calle si es que ellos seguían ahondando en el tema. Ellos siempre me dijeron de que la San Juan Bautista tiene un poder único. Es un elemento poderoso y no solo poderoso económico, sino un poder político fuertísimo en el Perú.
We wrote to the Archbishop of Piura, Monsignor Eguren, requesting an interview. He never replied. But every year he leads this parade to celebrate a major event in the Peruvian Catholic calendar, the Lord of Miracles Festival.
Buen día, monseñor.
Buenos días.
Del canal Al Jazeera, ¿podemos conversar?
Perdón,
¿Podríamos conversar, por favor, sobre el caso de las tierras de Piura y de San Juan Bautista?
We also wrote to Gómez de la Torre Pretel to request an interview. Again, he did not reply, so we're heading to the real estate company to look for him. We're told he's now working from an office in Lima. We head to the capital and straight to that address. The offices of a company called Inversiones San José, or St. Joseph Investments.
Para comunicarme con Inversiones San José, el señor Alberto Gómez de la Torre.
But again, he's not willing to speak with us.
Inversiones San José is a holding company. At the beginning, there were different businesses that were basically involved in funeral homes. Then, they began to create profit-driven businesses such as the Miraflores real estate company. Inversiones San José reports to a group of priests and Sodalitium members.
But how did a group of priests and their followers manage to construct and finance such a large business empire? Journalist Paulo Ugaz has been investigating just that. We're at the Parque del Recuerdo cemetery in Lima. It's one of the group's very first businesses and the key to understanding where their money comes from.
El Sodalicio no paga ningún impuesto, porque en 1980 el Perú firmó el concordato con el Vaticano y la Iglesia Católica no paga impuestos, así se dedique a cualquier tipo de negocio. Al no pagar 5 impuestos, tu ganancia se incrementa de manera impresionante.
The vast majority of the group's growth at the level of cash assets, cash flow, comes from the cemeteries. Around $30 million a year in sales. Profits surpass 15 million.
According to our source, the bulk of this cash is then used not for good works, but to finance the growth of the Sodalitium's business empire. This internal email is an example of how that cash flows. Over $11 million from the humanitarian organization San Juan Bautista is destined to finance the Miraflores Country Club and other businesses. Money which could be improving the lives of the wider community. Instead, it's developing real estate on land allegedly stolen from poor farmers.
The bottom line is that there is a group behind this which enjoys tax breaks, because in theory, all this money goes to doing good and charity, but in practice, they use it to keep on growing.
We wrote to all of the Sodalitium members included in this film, requesting they respond to the allegations made against them. None replied.
Esa gente es pobre, campesina, le dije, yo no le puedo hacer esas cosas. Las lágrimas de los pobres te alcanzan un día, le dije.
It appears that for the Sodalitium of Christian life, it's not the meek who will inherit the earth, but the rich and powerful.
Solamente la ira de Dios va a hacerles entender que la hipocresía se tiene que acabar.
The Catholic Church must now decide whether it wants to continue to be represented by a group that has strayed so far from a Christian path, leaving a catalogue of abuse allegations and victims in its wake. After we completed filming, Mr. Percy Garcia, a lawyer for the Miraflores Country Club, responded in writing to our investigation. He said the country club's land was legitimately purchased from local farmers and that the Campesino community's claim to it is false. He said the community's only objective in making false claims was to gain unjustified financial benefits. He told us that payments made by Gomez de la Torre to the gang's representatives was for security and in order to prevent the land from being invaded. He also said that a judge had removed Gomez de la Torre from the criminal investigation into the gang and that Mr. Gomez is now a witness in the Special Organised Crime Unit's case. We also wrote to the local authorities in Piura asking for a comment. They did not respond.